Well, welcome back to this second conversation in my series with Evelyn. We're talking all about retreats, and this one we're specifically talking about some of the common mistakes that lead people to that never again retreat, the kind of retreat experience they never want to do again. So, we're going to talk through some of these mistakes, have some conversation around it to make sure that you, as the listener or the watcher, are not going to make these mistakes. So, Evelyn, just in case someone didn't hear the first series, why don't will you quickly tell us who you are and kind of the work that you do?
Yes, I'm Evelyn Johnson, and I am a retreat planner. You can kind of think of me like a wedding planner, but for your destination retreat. I focus on Europe because I have been living in Spain for 9 years. So I know this place very well and very much immersed in the culture here. So I come from a music background. I'm also a classical singer, and I'm still an active performer as well.
Love it, which is just such a cool side of things. So when you get to work with Evelyn, you get to hear all about these really cool things that she does on that side too. And so just in case you're new to me, I'm a group program architect and I work with authors and coaches and consultants and other experts to help them really take their body of work, their expertise, and turn it into a transformative and impactful group program. And the reason Evelyn and I talk is because I love groups that include a retreat component. I call them Retreat Plus, where it's like there's programming that's in the time in the retreat, but there's also some support before and or after the retreat as well. And so we like to have this conversation in public because there's a lot whenever Evelyn and I get together and have conversations, we're always like, oh, yeah, no, that's something we should talk about. So we thought, hey, let's do a series about it. So this is the second one. And as I said earlier, we're talking really about the mistakes. And so what we're trying to do here is not shame anyone, not make anyone wrong for anything that they've done. It's really more about naming kind of the patterns and the things that we notice people are doing in an attempt to kind of preempt it or help you understand why, even if you did have one of those never again retreat experiences, you might not actually be done with retreats in your business and in your work. So, Evelyn, when you hear that idea of like the mistakes that lead to this never again kind of retreat experience, what are some of the things that you like that come up for you or you think about?
One of the biggies for me is doing the planning yourself, um, and just taking all of that on yourself and trying to do everything alone because there's really so much detail, and that can definitely lead to burnout. So where you as the coach, you're really focused on all of the logistical part, and sometimes what ends up happening is the actual like content, the actual programming part of the retreat, um, almost gets like put on the side. Uh, and you, as a coach, you're not even really able to relax into it. You're not even really able to enjoy it and bring your whole energy that you want to bring because you're too worried about, whether so and so is going to get the gluten-free meal that they needed or something like that. So there are a lot of details, and it's not something that you have to do alone. There are people who can help with that. Not just me, but there are ways to get help with that, and taking that off your plate can really um, alleviate some things for you. So
Yeah.
that's one big one for me.
And what stands out as you talk about that is I think sometimes people who are more inclined to try to kind of do all the logistics as well, they're first of all, they're probably underestimating what all of it means, both the logistics side, but also like how being in the moment and kind of managing the group is going to feel when you're on site as well. But it's like, what is your experience as the group leader? I've been a group leader that's like worried about, the gluten-free thing or what time are they setting up again? And you're trying to facilitate a conversation and you're half there, right? And so think about the quality of the experience that the people on the retreat are having with you, right? Like it's really about what are they taking away in terms of what it's like to work with you. And there can be such a detriment to that, to your brand, to that experience, if you're also trying to, manage all the pieces of it or even cook the meals or, welcome the people or,
Mhm.
all that kind of stuff. And so it really is about how are you making this experience the most powerful and impactful experience that creates a longer term relationship with them versus, well, it was really great to go to Spain, but we didn't, whatever, right? We didn't really do that thing I thought we were going to do or whatever. And so to me, it's almost like, how do you be kind to your future self that's leading the retreat? Like, so that you can fully be there and that the rest is kind of looked after.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things that also kind of comes up on that side of things for me is I see it like two extremes where we've like oversimplified or like we're underestimating kind of what is really needed from us and how the group is going to experience the retreat. And so it's like, oh, you just wing it. It's just fine. We'll just have conversations. We'll just go out for dinner. Like, all this will
Yeah,
just
yeah.
kind of underestimating. So that's one end of the spectrum. And then the other end of the spectrum for me is where they overcomplicate things. And it's
Hmm.
like they're trying to do so many different things, but they're also like, and we're going to go do this, and we're going to go do this. And and so it's
Yes.
like there's this overcomplication, this packing everything in. And at the end of it, everyone is like, did that happen? Like they weren't present for it either because it got so
Yeah.
complicated, it got so packed.
When you're there in a retreat setting and evidently going through some kind of inner transformation, I mean, these people are changing, right before your eyes as the leader, and that takes some space and stepping back. So it can't be constant action and constant activity if there's no like breathing space. Then that inner work cannot really as easily settle into the body, and settle into your being. So yeah, definitely like leaving space, not overpacking. That's really key.
Yeah. Is there another mistake or thing that you see people often kind of doing when it comes to these retreats?
Yeah, that is just like a fun extra. But the reality is like you're going to work a lot for it. It is work to put together that retreat, and it's a lot of value for the people who are coming. It's huge value. Like that should be paid, just like they pay you for your coaching. This is something that you're creating for them. That ultimately you are the designer of it, and it's you responsible uh, for that product, that offer. Um, and just like any of the other coaching offers, it should be profitable for you. You should leave room for profit when you price your retreat. And if you don't, you kind of go away and you think, gosh, that was so much work and I didn't even come out ahead. Like some people even come out behind. Some people
Yeah.
even lose money on their retreats. Um, so definitely plan for profit.
Yeah, and it's one of the things I love about kind of how you approach the retreats and kind of working with you as well is like it really is about the budget that has to include profit. Like the whole point of it is to make it a valuable part of your business. And when I, listen to your webinars and I take part in some of the stuff that you've put out there, what I really think about is it's like when you don't have it being a profitable part of your business, as you said, it's really draining, but it's also what is the incentive for you to keep doing it, right?
Hmm.
And I look at groups, retreats included, as anytime I do a group, I want it to be repeatable. That is the magic of investing the time and effort
Yeah,
into the
yeah,
group and putting it together is that you can do it over and over again.
yeah,
Sometimes with the same people, sometimes with different people. Like it doesn't actually matter. That all depends on who you're serving and what it looks like. But so if you're going to kind of create this experience of a retreat, you want to build something that you would do again, right? I'm not saying you have to do it like 6 months
definitely.
later or like even every year or whatever that
Yeah,
cadence looks like for you. But if this is part of how you serve people and this is part of the experience that you're giving to people, you want to build it in such a way that you can repeat it. And the profitability of that is part of this, right? Because if it's not profitable, it does start to be like, well, why would I do it? I'm tired from
yeah,
it. It's time away from my family, it's time away from my business, all those
yeah.
things. And so, yeah, I think that's such a great point to be like, you actually want to plan it with profit in mind.
Yes. definitely. And I
Yeah.
love what you say about repeatability. So if you're gaining, the profit that you as a business owner feel like you need to make, that you want to earn, um, yes, why wouldn't you do 2 or 3 a year, and in different locations that serve different people, that's easier for different people. Or maybe I'm biased because I'm a retreat planner, but I really think people need to be doing this more often. People need to be getting in person and having their communities like solidified by having that in-person experience. And so when people start to crave them again, they need to understand, um, that it is a really valuable thing. And so and that they need to pay for it, I guess is, that's the point, right?
Yes.
Um, and then if that happens, then that coach is going to feel better about repeating it again and again because they know that they're not going to lose money on it.
Yes.
So
Yeah. And when people have great experiences, they're thinking, I want to do that again. And, or, oh my gosh, my friend, my colleague, my family member really needs to go on the next one. And so
yeah,
that's how you start filling them before you even launch the next
yes,
one.
yes,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah. Any other mistakes that you see out there?
Okay, I want to talk about location. So I guess this mistake is um, only thinking about one kind of location. So retreats, when people imagine retreats, it's usually like something in nature and something more remote, probably. And that can be fine. That's sort of a standard way to do it. Um, but there are different purposes for your retreat. So if you have a purpose um, that's more just about pausing, that's more about just like being still and really resting. Something like that environment might be really good. But if you have a retreat that's about that whose transformation really is about motivating you and challenging you and making you see the world differently, making you see yourself differently, um, then an environment that matches that uh, can really play to your advantage. Okay, so for me, what that looks like is maybe instead of like a lakeside um, idyllic, house in the woods, it might be actually like a hotel in the middle of Barcelona or something, where you're going to be surrounded by different energy, where you're going to be surrounded by different people, a different lifestyle, and that's going to have you just experiencing new things and questioning everything. And so when you're in that mindset of experiencing new and questioning everything, that just matches perfectly with what you're there to accomplish. So retreats don't have to look like just one thing as far as the type of location. So choosing a location that really matches the transformation that you're going for, that's something that should be done.
Yeah, I think it's such an important piece of it. And in my language, it's the VIP process that I start with, where it's like we're talking about what's your vibe promise? What is the environment? Like what is the feeling? What is the essence? What do you want people to feel
Yeah.
with you? Then there's the ideal participant, so who's it for? And then it's the program promise, which is what you promise they will accomplish and or experience. And when I hear you talking about location, location is part of what that vibe promise, what that ideal participant, and what that program promise helps you to decide. So if
Yes,
you
it's huge.
haven't kind of sat down and said, why am I having this retreat, right? Like, what is the purpose of it? What am I promising people will
Yeah.
accomplish? Then it's a lot harder, or it's a lot harder to pick a location that matches, that suits it, that supports it, right? People won't notice the location as much if it's really congruent, but they will if it's not congruent,
Yes.
right? Like, and so location is one of those things that you really want to be thinking about. How does this environment play to what we're trying to accomplish? How does it support that? Instead
Hmm.
of just being like, well, that's the one I've been to before, right? And I
Yeah,
think that's one of the
exactly.
things that I love about the ability to work with someone like you is you can have those conversations and like you have so many more ideas about what that could entail and what that could look like.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, just, as a traveler, and there are a lot of people Um, of course, a lot of people just love traveling and they've been all over the place, um, but I think traveling is sort of in one bucket and then like retreats is sort of in another. And I guess what I'm trying to offer to people is that they can sort of coexist. Like travel can be the retreat, like the experience of travel and immersion in a place can play a role in the retreat. So,
Yes. Yeah. I
yeah.
love that. I love that. What's another mistake?
Yeah, I'm going to just talk about one more. So this is a planning part, okay? So a timeline thing. Um, I would say waiting too long to start planning. So leaving it for too late. Um, I love when people come and they're thinking probably a whole year in advance because it gives us time to really do this whole process of what's the transformation that you're going for, what's the purpose. Okay, so then let's really make sure that the destination you have in mind matches. And so all of that kind of takes some time. Um, and then the logistics, like how many people and what kind of meeting space do you actually need? Do you need it in silence? Do you need it with coffee and cookies or not? Do you need computers? You know, there are so many like little details. And of course, it's one thing to get um, hotel rooms or whatever it might be, but to get like a unique meeting space, that's sometimes that would need something that might need to be booked really further in advance. Um, so I would say leaving yourself plenty of time. And then also us considering that within that year, let's say, of advanced time, planning time, you should assume that your business is going to grow in that time. So it's hard to do this, but if you really have a clear vision of where you will be 1 year from now, that's kind of the vision that you need to hold in your mind as you plan your retreat. So don't plan your retreat for where you are now, but where you know that you're going to be in 1 year. Okay, so that you start the vision now. Um, and then maybe within a few months, okay, we've got a logistics settled, and then you plan your launch, and because there's a there's a lot to do.
Yes.
So yeah, definitely giving plenty of time to do that.
The thing that also comes up for me around that time piece is that time gives you options, right? So it's
Hmm.
like you get your choice between the spaces versus what's left. You get the
Yeah.
choice between, like
Yes.
all those kinds of things. So it really is, it's about it, the more you want to make it really all the pieces of that experience support what you're doing, that length of time gives you those options and gives you
Yeah.
those choices in a way that if you're just kind of doing it quickly, it doesn't.
Right.
And the other thing is retreats often come with a price tag that require people to save a little or be prepared for and
Yes.
all that kind of stuff too. So that's part of it as well, is you want to give people enough time to kind of save dates and start saving or put their deposit down or whatever that looks like, and
Definitely.
get them to be prepared for the time.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I would say, especially if it's something that is international, if you're flying across an ocean or something, um, there's something about that where people feel like, oh, I that needs to be a something I need to plan for further in advance. I mean, some people like, you know, get on a plane to Bali in 2 weeks' notice and they don't
Yeah.
they don't bat an eye, but most people feel like, oh, transatlantic flight, I need to prepare for that. Um, you know, financially, calendar wise, and just like mentally. So yeah,
Yeah. No, totally.
right.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. The final thing that I will say that I think we can talk about in our next series a little bit too, though, is, I want to encourage you as you're thinking about this and you're thinking about the timeline, you're thinking about the location, think about yourself too. Like, give yourself permission to take that year to plan it, to take the time to kind of say, how do I want to spend the day or two before the retreat? I always encourage people to think about, like, what are you going to want to do at the end of that retreat? Because most people are going to want a day or two at least to kind
Hmm.
of like recalibrate versus like running home and like having to deal with everything. If
Yes.
obviously that's a privilege to be able to have that, but you know, what do you want your own experience to be? As much as I'm always central to like what is the participant's experience, I think especially when you have a retreat, you want to be even more considerate of your own experience too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yay. Well, Evelyn, thank you so much for having this conversation with me. What I would kind of leave with is just, you know, I would encourage anybody who's listening or watching this to like identify one area where you're likely gonna overdo it or underdo it, or you know is gonna be kind of that part, and really think about yourself. What could make this feel lighter? What could make this feel more aligned? What support could I get to make this part easier? And so you're kind of doing it in chunks. So I encourage you and I invite you to kind of do that as the takeaway from this. And check out our next video where we are going to talk about kind of like from that vision all the way to booked, what's happening in there, and what does planning with support look like, and what does planning with spaciousness look and feel like. So thanks, Evelyn, so much for the conversation. We'll see you in the next one.
It was great. Thanks again, Carrie.